10 days of the election and you don't feel comfortable putting your ballot back into the mail to make sure that it's delivered in time to be processed on election day. You might be dependent on a caretaker or a family member who has a work schedule that doesn't allow them to return it to the clerk's office, between 9 to 5 business hours, or be available to return the ballot on behalf of a voter with a disability on election day. So having the opportunity to be able to drop an absentee ballot into a drop box can be really important for people, particularly those who depend on others to help return their ballot for them.
During Monday's arguments, a lot of the discussion questioned ambiguity of the language in state statute that you just referenced, Christian. It says ballots should be delivered in person to municipal clerks, but it doesn't explicitly state how to carry out that process. Justices on the court touched on the authority the legislature has in clarifying or providing guidance. Christian, why do you think the legislature has not taken steps to address this issue so far?
Well, take two words from what the law: in person, which means voter, and to clerk, which means to recipient clerk, not to recipient's clerk friend, to the outpost of the clerk. It says to the clerk. And so the statute, in my mind, is clear. The Wisconsin Supreme Court thought it was clear. These are rules of the Democratic body elected to pass. And look, if you want to start getting people wound up about the election, start breaking the rules. Start fudging how we run things, and then you'll really get people stoked up. One of the hallmarks of having consent of the governed is we set rules in advance and we follow them when we run elections.
And so drop boxes were used in 2020. They were banned in 2022. For a battleground state like Wisconsin, what effect do you think using versus not using drop boxes has had on the state's elections? I will start off with you, Christian.
Look, you got to understand, Wisconsin is one of the few states that do this. So all these stories without any evidence or any actual people to say they can't do this without a drop box is really sort of interesting to see from a 50-state perspective, because most states don't do what Wisconsin does, and people find a way, no matter the disability, to vote. So why Wisconsin? Why are drop boxes such a big issue in Wisconsin? I think a lot of people around the country are asking that question, because you can vote by mail. You can vote in person. The disabled have lots of protections under the Americans with Disability Act, the Voting Rights Act, to get their ballot counted. So this is not some sort of problem. It sounds like a solution in search of a problem.
And Lisa, asking you the similar question, and do you have a response to that?
I would say on impact, our goal is to make sure that everybody who is eligible to cast a vote can cast a vote. And that can look really different for people with disabilities for a variety of reasons. Yes, there are a lot of protections that are in place through the ADA. Wisconsin also has a lot of protections within our own statutes to ensure that people with disabilities can cast their ballots. The fact of the matter is, we hear from voters every election that are still continuing to run into barriers because of there are a lot of different influences on that, and drop boxes can be part of that. Just because we don't have an exact number of what that looks like doesn't mean that it isn't a problem. In terms of impact on the elections, it is hard to know because we don't have an exact number, but I think anything that can increase access to all voters, again, particularly our focus is on voters with disabilities, to ensure that they can get their ballots returned in a timely manner to make sure that they're counted on election day, is something that we think could have an impact on the election, whichever way that goes. We're a nonpartisan organization. We're part of a nonpartisan coalition. Our goal is to make sure that people's votes are cast and counted. And so whatever the impact of that is, it means that people are able to exercise the right to vote.
Lisa Hassenstab, Disability Rights Wisconsin, and Christian Adams for the Public Interest Legal Foundation. Thank you both so much for joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you.